What if you suddenly woke up tomorrow and gravity stopped working for just 10 seconds? No warning. No noise. No warning from science, no cosmic event. Just a completely normal world that instantly breaks every rule it has ever followed. You're standing there for a moment, and then it happens. Everything lets go of the ground. It doesn't feel like falling. It feels like reality forgot what down means. Your body lifts slightly, weight disappears, and in the same instant, everything around you begins to float. Phones drift out of hands. Chairs rise slowly. Tables tilt upward. Water escapes glasses in perfect suspended spheres. For a brief second, people don't even understand what they're seeing. Some laugh. Some freeze. Some reach for walls that no longer provide support because support itself has stopped existing. But this is only the beginning of second one. Because gravity is not just what holds you down. It is what holds everything together. Outside your room, entire cities begin to disconnect from the ground. Cars float off highways like toys released into air. Traffic jams turn into suspended metal clouds. Trains lift from tracks still moving forward due to inertia. Entire highways become floating lines of chaos stretching across landscapes. Buildings begin to separate internally. Floors detach slightly from structural columns. Elevators drift inside shafts. Staircases become vertical tunnels of floating steps. And then people realize something horrifying. Earth is still moving. Spinning at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. Orbiting the sun at over 100,000 kilometers per hour. Racing through space with nothing stopping it. And now, nothing is anchored to it. The oceans react first. Because water is the most sensitive to gravity loss. It doesn't fall. It expands. Coastlines begin to blur as the ocean lifts upward in massive curved sheets. Entire harbors lose definition as water detaches from the seabed. Ships float upward inside the sea itself, trapped in suspended liquid environments. Within seconds, the oceans begin breaking apart into unstable floating bodies of water, like the planet is shedding its skin layer by layer. Then the atmosphere begins to change. Air is not weightless under normal conditions. It is held in place by gravity. Without it, the atmosphere starts to rise. Not explosively at first, but quietly. Like the Earth is exhaling for the first time in billions of years. Higher layers drift upward into space. Lower layers begin thinning. Pressure systems collapse. Weather patterns freeze mid-formation and dissolve. Wind stops behaving like wind. It becomes fragmented motion. Random pressure shifts that no longer follow geography. Breathing becomes inconsistent depending on altitude, location, and density pockets forming across the planet. And now the human brain starts to understand the scale of what is happening. Because this isn't just floating objects. This is structural failure of a planet. Underground, mining tunnels collapse into silence, not because of crushing force, but because weight distribution itself has changed. Rocks that were once compressed now begin to separate microscopically. Stress stored in tectonic plates begins to release unevenly. Fault lines do not rupture yet. They stretch. Like a stressed fabric slowly loosening. And then the earthquakes begin, not as violent shaking at first, but as disorientation of the crust itself. But the most dangerous system is not land. It is momentum. Everything that was moving with Earth continues moving. That includes the atmosphere, oceans, debris, people, vehicles, and everything not physically attached to the planet's core structure. Some people outside find themselves suddenly airborne above cities, watching the Earth rotate beneath them like a giant turning sphere that no longer cares where they are. Daylight sweeps across continents in seconds. Shadows move like living things. And silence spreads. Because sound needs air pressure. And air pressure is collapsing. Inside cities, chaos becomes layered. Floating debris collides unpredictably. Glass shatters mid-air. Water droplets drift through streets like suspended storms. People try to orient themselves, but there is no up or down anymore. Only motion. And then something even more dangerous begins to emerge. Satellite instability. In orbit, satellites rely on precise gravitational balance and orbital mechanics. With gravity temporarily gone, orbital paths destabilize. Some satellites drift away from Earth's influence entirely. Others collide into unstable trajectories. Communication systems flicker. GPS fails. Global synchronization collapses. For the first time in modern history, humanity is completely disconnected from itself in real time. And then space debris becomes a risk. Objects already in orbit no longer follow predictable paths relative to Earth's gravity field. The entire orbital ecosystem becomes chaotic, increasing collision risk exponentially. But all of this is still happening inside the 10-second window. Second 4. Second 5. Second 6. Now the atmosphere is noticeably thinner at lower altitudes. Breathing becomes harder in some regions. Temperature shifts rapidly as heat transfer becomes unstable. The balance between solar radiation and atmospheric shielding begins to fluctuate. Second 7. Large structures begin showing internal separation. Bridges detach at joints. High-rise buildings begin to lose alignment between structural layers. Roads crack not from pressure, but from loss of uniform weight distribution. Second 8. Human perception begins to distort because the vestibular system, the inner sense of balance, has no gravity reference anymore. People cannot tell what direction they are facing relative to Earth. Second 9. The atmosphere is now partially layered and uneven. Oceans are fragmented into suspended masses. Debris fields are forming across cities and continents. Everything is suspended in a fragile equilibrium that cannot last. Second 10. Gravity returns. Instantly. There is no delay. No soft landing. No adjustment period. Everything that was floating has only one direction to go. Down. But down is no longer safe. Water collapses first. Entire suspended ocean sections slam back into basins at once, generating global-scale tsunami shockwaves that travel across continents within minutes. Coastal geography is rewritten instantly. Floating debris becomes rainfall of destruction. Vehicles, infrastructure, ocean fragments, all accelerating downward simultaneously. The atmosphere compresses violently as it snaps back into gravitational confinement. This triggers instant pressure storms that spread across the planet in seconds. Wind systems reinitialize at catastrophic intensity, forming global superstorms. Earth's crust reacts to the sudden return of full gravitational load. Seismic shockwaves propagate worldwide. Volcanoes destabilize from pressure imbalance deep within the mantle. Everything that was stretched now contracts violently. Everything that was separated now collides. And everything that was suspended now falls. And then, silence again. But it is not the same silence as before. Because now the planet is changed. Some ecosystems are destroyed completely. Atmospheric composition is uneven. Ocean distribution is unstable. Weather systems are no longer predictable. Human civilization, if it survives at all, is fractured into isolated zones trying to understand what just happened in less than 11 seconds. But the deeper truth is worse. Because gravity did not break. It was only temporarily removed. Which means everything we just experienced is how fragile stability really is. Now imagine if it lasted 1 minute. Or 1 hour. Or never came back at all. Because gravity is not just a force that keeps you on the ground. It is the reason the ground exists as something you can stand on in the first place. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more what if scenarios that push reality beyond its limits. Because the universe is far more unstable than it looks, we're just lucky it usually holds together.